Well, shoot, someone took the time to recommend a restaurant to review in the comments of part 1. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it in the description, and if there's somewhere you'd like to see me review, be sure to subscribe and comment below, and I'll be sure to check it out and share my thoughts. So thank you, adventurer, for the recommendation. I'll do that one first, so let's continue with this shit. I have to preface that, while I like sushi, it has never blown my dick off like it has for those sorts of people that have a concerning relationship with Japanese culture. If I'm being honest, I think most sushi places are wildly overpriced, and are almost never a good value for the money compared to, say, a poke bowl. Rock and Roll Sushi is in line with the most okayest of sushi spots. They lean heavily in the fried shrimp realm and commit the cardinal sin of dousing some of their rolls in sweet chili sauce. If you've never cooked with this stuff, it is 100% sweet, 0% spicy, and you could probably flavor your sweet tea with it and not even notice a difference. Now look, I'm not a picky eater. In fact, there are two things in this world I find truly revolting, and one of them is cream cheese. And just as with fried shrimp, Rock and Roll loves using cream cheese. But hey, that's my palate, not yours. So if that's what you want in your sushi, they're right up your alley. Though I will add that their signature roll really isn't worth the price, and you're better off devoting those funds elsewhere on the menu. I would give them a 5 out of 10 for being a standard overpriced sushi restaurant, but I have to take a point off for the atmosphere. I don't know what I expected going somewhere called Rock and Roll Sushi, but being forced to watch music videos by Nickelback and Warrant wasn't it. I get it, it's their theme, and that theme is going to be subject to different tastes, but that taste isn't mine. So if that sounds cool to you, then by all means give it a shot, but I'm giving Rock and Roll Sushi a 4 out of 10. We realized that we hadn't had pizza in months and decided to try Jim's Razorback Pizza. Unlike sushi, pizza is a food that I know pretty well, and as the name suggests, Jim serves what I call college town pizza. It's something you can spot by the distinct layer that separates the sauce and cheese, like a sheet of cheese sitting on top of the pie, and it's usually caused by pizza ovens that simply can't hit the extreme temperatures that meld those two layers into one, like you see with New York pizza. It's also the kind of pizza that, while serviceable, really needs an assload of toppings, and it's not something you can enjoy as just a cheese pizza. The pizza itself was perfectly fine for what it is. The problem was that I also got an order of Razorback sticks with cheese, which were horrendous. Biting into these things sounded like a horse trying to eat a muffler, and they were charred beyond recognition to the point that they would require a closed coffin funeral. So I'm giving Jim's Razorback Pizza a 5 out of 10. I'm starting to understand that reviewing every restaurant in Conway will mean eating a lot of Tex-Mex, and I think I'm starting to pick up on the intricacies of the genre. So we went to Acapulco, and it was pretty good. In fact, it was pretty great if you're the sort of person who hates making small talk with people and dread the thought of your server telling you about their kids and their alcoholic husband while you smile awkwardly, praying to a god you never believed in that they'll leave you alone to enjoy your meal. And you never have to worry about that at Acapulco. Your server will take your order and literally vanish into a cloud whose outline resembles them. They'll bring you your food, fill up your drinks, and never ask you to utter or listen to a single word. I'm also starting to understand that these places all use a white cheese sauce that may or may not be called queso blanco. But whatever it is, and whatever my enjoying it says about me, I'm all about it. I appreciate it because I don't know what's in it, but it doesn't taste like fake cheese and seems to be good on everything. I got a fried chimichanga covered in the stuff, and it was damn tasty. I wouldn't say it's as good as Los Tres Potrillos, but it was pretty close and a bit cheaper, so I'm giving El Acapulco a 7 out of 10. In my last review, I said I tried whole hog barbecue, but at the wrong time. Well, we tried Old Bart's Southern Eats right as they opened, and while I am nowhere near an expert on the intricacies of barbecue, whole hog still blew them out of the water. Old Bart's brisket was tough, and it didn't seem like enough of the fat rendered. There was also some sort of corn side dish that looked like a garbage disposal exploded, and this is what came out. Overall, everything I had, which was fresh, was vastly inferior to many of the same things at Whole Hog that had probably been sitting for hours. It wasn't a terrible meal by any stretch, but I can't help but contrast it to its competitors. When we went to Whole Hog, it's in an old building, it was an hour before close, but there were a half dozen employees in the back still hustling to get people fed. Old Bart's Southern Eats is in a strip mall, and when we walked in, there was one employee hurrying to get everything ready to open. The place has a very cleaned up, sterile, corporate feeling, which may be what you want if you're getting sushi or a mattress, but not barbecue. Overall, not bad, but it pales in comparison to the authentic, and I'm giving Old Bart's Southern Eats a 5 out of 10. So I got my hair cut last week, shout out to Handsome John's Barbershop, by the way, and the skinny I got from the boys is that Stoby's is...
Come on. We call it the place to be. Place to be, yeah.
However, just as with Whole Hog, I messed up. I'll get out there for breakfast one of these days, but I missed it, so lunch it is. One thing I like to do is to ask my server what they recommend, particularly if it's somewhere with an extensive menu. So I asked the waitress, and without hesitation, she said, the barbecue pork nachos. Probably not in the top 10 or even 50 things I would have thought to order, but okay, nacho me up. And holy shit, she was actually right. The problem I always have with nachos is that they disappoint me structurally. If you melt real cheese, you inevitably end up with all of the toppings sticking to one or two nachos, and then you just have a plate full of dry chips. Alternatively, you can have nachos with a disgusting fluorescent orange sauce that for some reason turns ice cold and congeals within seconds of it being on your table. And you know what the solution to this logistical problem is? Why, it's whatever the hell that white cheese sauce is that everyone here seems to love. These were unironically the best nachos I've ever had. The pork shoulder was nice and smoky, the barbecue sauce was sweet, the cheese sauce was tangy, and the bites with the pickled jalapenos were the perfect burst of acid to cut through all of that. A neat little reminder to almost always trust your server, and I'm giving Stoby's, for lunch, a 7 out of 10. Patty Cakes is the bakery right behind Stoby's, and I'm pretty sure they make their desserts. After our meal, we ordered a piece of coconut pie, and it was pretty underwhelming. It had some kind of marshmallow topping, but it didn't really taste like coconut, which says to me that it's a baker that sometimes tries to get a little bit too cute. I picked up some croissants and macaroons for later, and they were okay. Patty Cakes gets a 5 out of 10. Yup, Chili's is indeed a restaurant in Conway, and technically it's the first one I ate at. It was the day we moved here, and for whatever reason, my mother-in-law wanted to go. So I'll review it so I never have to go back there again. It's Chili's. It's overpriced and hard to tell whether or not your food was cooked in a microwave. We learned that our waitress's son is at some kind of Christian drug treatment facility, which, is it even a night out at Chili's if you didn't learn something like that from a complete stranger? The three of us got one appetizer, a couple rounds of drinks, and dinner, and the bill was just shy of $100, which is probably why I had blocked this out of my memory. Maybe this is a place for you if you work in HR and you and the girls need to cut loose on a Friday night, get some golden margaritas and Southwest egg rolls, laugh, flirt, and end up in a crying, hair-pulling slap fight in the parking lot. But for us normal, functioning human beings, Chili's gets a 1 out of 10. You ever go to Panera Bread and have the realization that it's just wildly overpriced hospital food? Well, make the prices a little bit more reasonable and you have McAlisters Deli. Similar to Verona Italian, this is one of those restaurants that has no shot at meeting my expectations by virtue of having the word deli in their name. That word just means something completely different to me. But if you want an okay sandwich and some okay soup for an okay price, you can check out McAlisters, and I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. When I visit a restaurant, there are certain things I take notice of that often have nothing to do with the food. So as we approach the entry to Colton's Steakhouse and Grill at 7 p.m. on a Friday night, and I see multiple geriatric couples leaving, it hits one of those marks. Because you have to understand that the older generation knows where the good eating is. So if they're finishing their early bird special just as you're arriving, you found a good one. The obvious comparison here is the Texas Roadhouse, which is known for their rolls and cinnamon butter. And while I like cinnamon, that always tasted more like a dessert than I want to have before dinner. So in this regard, I give the nod to Colton's, not just for having better rolls, but for having regular whipped butter. I asked our waitress what was good here as previously described, and her exact words were, quote, the ribeye, which I don't really like. And goddamn, while I appreciate the upsell hustle to recommend the most expensive item on the menu that you don't even like as the best thing on the menu, it was hilariously not the answer I was looking for. So I went with the country fried steak and mashed potatoes, and I have this to say. I had previously mentioned that there were only two foods in this world that I find truly revolting. One of them is cream cheese, the other is sour cream, and I had an encounter with both. I kept taking small bites of the mashed potatoes and was detecting something tangy, and I am now 99% sure that Colton's put sour cream in their mashed potatoes. Which makes perfect sense if you think about it, I just never experienced that before. But damn my personal sensibilities, overall it was a damn fine meal, and I'm giving Colton's a 7 out of 10. Lastly, and fucking hell, I did not see this one coming. Zen Thai and Ramen is a little shop in a strip mall near Kroger's, and certainly not the kind of place I imagine having some of the best ramen I've ever had in my life. Here in America, tonkatsu is the style of ramen you're most likely to find. It's a broth that's made from cooking pork bones for long periods of time in order to extract large amounts of collagen, which creates a rich, meaty broth that I love the hell out of. Zen doesn't do tonkatsu. There are hundreds of other ramen broths in the world, and while I don't know which one they do, it's delicious. It's a subtle yet deep and extremely flavorful soup. The way I would describe it is that if tonkatsu is a bold punch to the face, like a strong cup of coffee, this broth is more like a gentle tea, which isn't normally my cup of tea, but this was my cup of tea. It's contrasted by a pork chashu that was smoky and had those great crispy bits around the outside. And as it sits, the pork fat flavors the broth with these glistening little pearls of deliciousness on the top. The wife also reported that her drunken noodles were damn good, and the only gripe I had here was that they had no spice levels as options and no condiments on the table. So after we finished eating, we heard other people asking for chili oil that we didn't know we could have had. But aside from that, we left happy and full and feeling like we just stumbled across a hidden gem in the area. Check this place out if you can, because I'm giving Zen Thai and Ramen a 9 out of 10. That's all for this round. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't, and tell me what your favorite local spots are. I'll review another 10 when I eat another 10, and I'll see you next time.